Human beings are curious by nature. We have a highly developed mental ability which help us to observe precisely, correlate observations, and predict future happenings on the basis of the observations. This ability has helped human beings to adjust to nature. We explore, we interpret, and change the physical world or natural world according to our own need and requirement. So, here the process of observing, describing, exploring, and using the physical or natural world, it's nothing but science. So, process and processing are the words we often use in our day to day conversations. In teaching professions alone, the word process is extensively used, such as admission process, teaching process, learning process, process of socialization, examination process, and evaluation process, etc. So, in this class, module number 8, we will mainly focus on the process skills in science. As we know, the National Curriculum Framework 2005 has very clearly defined the general aims and objectives of teaching sciences up to senior secondary level. And in every aims and objectives, they have emphasized that every learner in the school, they have to develop various types of skills which are very essential in doing science. And some of the skills are related with the finding the scientific informations or scientific data. So the learners, they have to enhance their different process skills. And besides that, thinking skills also comes, and that will be dealing in the another class. And this class will focus only in the process skills in science. And in these process skills, first we try to understand the word process. Here the process may involve the certain activities. Certain activities such as a step to accomplish a task. Here in process, it has to be done step by step, not in a haphazard manner. And there is a special way of doing the work, and every stages, every steps, it has to be well planned for that any activity, and also establishing systematic steps for gathering and retaining information. And like steps are accomplished, then the different ways of doing the work is also defined. Then in every stages, proper planning is to be done, how it can be executed, and towards the end we must be able to establish systematic steps for gathering, and not only gathering but also gathering or acquisition, but retaining the information. So if these 4 steps are there, then that activity is known as the process. And this process in this particular model will be dealing with the certain basic processes of science skill. So here in this lesson, in this module, it will help you to identify the basic scientific process skill. Basic scientific process skill. and it is to be developed among the our students, learners. And you will be also able to design and develop activities to help learners for developing process skills. I mean, what type of activities are to be conducted so that the learners will develop the different types of process skill. And thirdly, this module also will help you to specify your role, as a teachers, as a science teacher, your role in nurturing the scientific process skills among the learners. So these three aspects we are going to deal in this lesson. And now directly let us come to this portion. Here you can see in learning the science, there are certain basic process skills are involved. Those skills are namely observing skills, observation, classifying, communicating, measuring, estimating, predicting, and inferring. So what are all these skills? We'll see one by one today. And besides these basic process skills, the science teacher, we must be knowing about the certain advanced skills, which are also known as the integrated skills, where these basic skills are also involved in doing these certain activities or scientific activities. So those skills we'll be dealing in details in the another lesson. And here in a nutshell, you can see in this figure that integrated skills, there are mainly 7 types. First one is identifying and controlling the variables, but identifying the problem, the particular task which we are supposed to solve. So that one, and what we are going to do, that is to be stated very clearly. So that is called the defining operationally. Then after that, we try to find out the possible answers of that particular problem, and it is known as the formulation of hypothesis. Then hypotheses are to be tested. That fourth step is experimentation. Then after experimentation, we observe certain things, we get some information, and all those are to be recorded in the form of a certain grouping is to be done, like classifying, and arrange in a right order. That is also known as the tabulation. Then when the tables are being framed, and those, what is the meaning of that particular table, what type of facts are displayed in that particular table, that is to be interpreted in the form of suitable scientific language. Then after that, if that is interpreted and all, further investigation, further research can be done. So this is also special skills which is required to developed among the every learner. So this will deal in the days to come. And today we'll do the basic process skills. They are also 7 in number in this particular module. The first is the observing. So observing or observation skill, it is the most basic process. Any science learning, usually we do we begin our gaining the information by the process of observation. So any kind of scientific inquiries, higher scientific inquiries also, observation will act as a foundation. It is a base. So what do you mean by observation or observing? So observation, we cannot say that it is seeing only. So observation, it's a purposeful viewing. Intentionally we see certain things. So that may be a kind of a observation. So here observing means using our various senses, not only the eyes, to obtain information. Information, scientifically it is known as the data about the different objects or events which we want to attend. So observing means using our various senses to observe, to obtain or to acquire information about the any objects or group of objects or events which we want to learn properly. So this is about the observation. So here observation, I already told you that it is here not only one sense organ is involved. Here all this our 5 sense organs are involved. Like here in this example you can see looking at the change of the color in the litmus solution. So litmus paper, you know, if it is deep in different solution like acidic solution or base solution, it will change the color. So for that we make the use of our sense organ eye. Your eye is involved. Similarly, another uh, activity which we have done it, or at home also we have done, uh, not purposefully but accidentally also sometimes we must have done. Here tuning fork is shown, and tuning fork when it is struck with the table, so it starts to vibrate actually, but that vibration may not be visible to our eyes. So if that tuning fork after striking on the table, if you dip into the glass which is full with the water, we can see that glass surface is shaking. So if you touch that tuning fork, there also you will get the vibration, that is vibrating. So from there, in this experiment we are making the use of our sense of touch. In litmus paper we were using the sense of our viewing, that is the eye. Then usually sometimes we gather our information by collecting by using the another sense organ, that is even the nose, for smell purpose. So suppose here in the laboratory hydrogen sulfide gas is produced, and you know the smell of the hydrogen peroxide, the odor of that hydrogen peroxide is not palatable. So we are gaining that information that hydrogen sulfide odor is not its odor is very foul type, not not palatable. So this observation, this information we gain by making the use of our sense organ of the smell. So similarly, another sense organ is our ear. And usually you all play musical instrument also, that guitar and other musical instrument you have been playing. So that time you usually check the pitch of that sound of any musical instrument. So that you want to observe whether that particular pitch is suitable for that particular song or not. So in that cases you are making the use of the another sense organ, that is the ear. So similarly the another sense organ, all 5 sense organs are involved. Here it's very simple exercises that a glass of water, half filled glass of water is there. There sugar is being stirred, mixed, and that sugar solution, externally we cannot find out what is in it, but now you want to know what type of solution it is, whether it is salty or it is sweet. So for that we have to make the use of our sense organ tongue. The taste buds are utilized. So these are the examples, just to mention that in the process of observation, involvement of all of our sensory organs is there. So that is observation. So when we give the definition of the observation, it should be clearly mentioned. And being a science teacher, we must would like to make our learners very good observers. So for making the good observers, we have to encourage them to make the use of their sensory experiences, that is use of the five sense organs. And usually in teaching science, like whether chemistry or biology or even in physics, we talk about the what color of the object, size we see, shape also we see, hardness, texture, luster, sonorous, whether it produces sounds or not, and density. So all these factors, no, of any object, we can acquire the knowledge about it by the process of observation. And this example here you can see. So in our group we have Fifang. So Fifang is the science teacher in a secondary school in Beijing. Let us assume, okay, this is a let us say the prediction also, one of the skill. Okay, so he asks his students to fill in the table what they will observe during following activities. So some activities are given here, like cooking. In cooking, place of observation maybe kitchen. So students, they have to write the kitchen. And what do they observe? So in the kitchen, how the food is being cooked. So that they have to write here. And to observe the activities in the kitchen, what senses are being involved? Or in kitchen, while doing the kitchen work, which sense organs are being utilized? So that they have to write. Another activity, bird watching. Place of observation, what do they observe, and senses involved. Another observation, monitoring the class. In the class, their own class, they can monitor, they can see, they can observe. And at that time, similarly, what do they observe and which sense organs are involved, that they can record it. Then if you allow them to observe a fish, so the fish, place of observation, it may be in the pond or it may be in an aquarium. So what did they observe and which senses are involved in doing that observation work? So they can do this work, and when this task is completed, Fifahang can ask them to define observation in their own words. Your science teacher can ask the learners to define the process of observation in their own words. And in this case, the teacher can support the students by giving some more characteristic feature of the process of observation. So here you can see the what are the characteristics of the observation. So observation usually focuses on what part and how, but not why, not why. So why, etc., it comes in the critical thinking skill. And observation is based on facts but not on the opinions. Observation is totally based on the facts. What is fact? Okay, later on we'll deal it further. Okay, then observation should be very, very objective. It should not be biased opinion of the person who is doing observation. And observation is a continuous process, and it is not completed in one sitting only. So observation you can do for longer duration, but it is a continuous process. Okay, and this observation can be of two types. One can be qualitative and quantitative also. And in the qualitative, usually the shape, the color, the material, the texture comes under the qualitative data. Suppose if you ask your student to see cuboidal structures, and describe it after doing observation. So that student may describe, may collect the information about that cuboid shape object in terms of its shape. How does it look like? What is the color? What material it is? What type of texture? So if that type of information is collected, that information is called qualitative data. And sometimes the students, they collect another information which is related with the dimensions such as length, breadth, height, volume, weight. So that type of information is called quantitative data. So by the observation we can collect the qualitative information and quantitative information both. So this is also possible, and we have to make this thing clear to the students. Then next, observation has to be based on the already formulated certain concept, and that observation has to be made in a certain context. So that will give a better understanding. So here, for example, if you ask your students to prepare a slide of the onion peel under the microscope and observe under the microscope. So for that, if you have already taught the that particular subject, a chapter, the description of the cell and how does it look like under the microscope. So in that ground is already prepared, and that time, after that you can ask your students to prepare this orange peel slide. Then they can understand, they can based on the knowledge which is gained in the class which you have already taught, or you have already explained about it, the cells. So that time they will observe under the microscope this type of structures, okay. The cell under microscope looks like this. But if you haven't made their concept clear, if it is not being taught, so directly the microscopic work is given to them, so they will find this type of slideshow there, and they might get confused that it's all wrinkled structures, and they will find these air bubbles also. So which one is the real cell? And they are in the confusion. So that type of observation may not be a healthy observation. So that's why this observation has to be made conceptual and contextual. And now to develop these objectives, observation skill, you can organize this type of activities. You can design some activities, what I have mentioned just now. Other than that, you can design some more activities depending upon your subject, physics, chemistry or biology, through which you can help your learners in understanding that observation involves many senses and observation is based on facts. So these two characteristics of the observing skill of observation are to be make clear to the students. For that, you can do this activity. You can share this activity through WhatsApp or through mail also, or if these activities are small enough, you can share in this comment box also. Okay, so another process skill is the classifying. So in learning science, this classifying skill is very, very essential. So here classification it is a process of imposing order and collection of objects or events based on similarities, differences and interrelationship. So it is good to organize our observation in ways that carry some special meaning. So here in this particular figure you can see the group of objects are there. So they are being classified not according to the shape but according to their color. Green color, red color, yellow color, brick color, blue color, like this. So this type of process of imposing the order based on their similarities. So here in terms of the similarities with a special reference to the color, so that is being displayed. So this is also one of the way of classifying the object. And in the junior classes, our students, they have already learned the categorization of the certain objects in their own immediate locality. For example, they can differentiate the fruits and the vegetables. They can classify these are fruits and these are vegetables, and they are able to identify and segregate round object and square objects, and then wooden objects and plastic articles, stationary items and play materials. So based on their everyday observations, they can differentiate, they can categorize these type of items. But now in science, we have to do this type of classification in much more deeper level. And here you can say at the primary level, while teaching the biology, at the elementary level, the learners, they can differentiate or classify the plants such as tree, shrub and herbs. And they further learn about that as a group of plants, some are flowering and another group of plants, they are non-flowering. So this type of classification we can teach in the elementary level. And now in secondary levels, this classification can be a little more of a higher range. For example, here a classification about the monocots and dicots. Monocot root, dicot root, monocot leaf and dicot leaf. And according to their seed structures. Here in this picture you can see the cotyledons, then floral parts. Usually in the dicot flower petals are pentamerous, that they have the five five in number. Any part they have. For example, in the flower, a corolla is there, the petals is there, number of petals is usually 5. The sepals also, if you count, it will be 5. And if you count the like androecium, it will be multiple of 5. In gynoecium also, sometimes it will be 1 or sometimes it will be multiple of 5. Like 5, sometimes 10. And in case of the monocot floral parts, it is 3 sets, 3, like a lily. No, this type of plants, they have 3 petals, 3 multiples of 3. And similarly, the leaf wise, they are venation wise, monocot and dicot, they are different. And pollen grain wise, their pollen grain structures also varies. Like that we can teach. This is a detailed classification about the monocot and dicot. And similarly, from physics, we have already learned, and we can make our learners also to learn about the different types of machines, especially the levers. So in these levers, a first class lever with example, a second type of lever example, third type of lever, like that. And we can ask the students to find out more example belonging to all these categories of the levers. So this type of classifying the object we can teach our learners. And there are another way of classifying, that is a parallel classification system or hierarchical system of classification. This is also important. And parallel classification, here is the example. Like you can ask your students to fill in this column. Like you can write acidic, acid, and basic categories. Then you can give the list of the various items. For example, vinegar, lime juice, baking soda, bleach, even lime water, something like that. So we can ask them to categorize them. So this is usually it happens in the not in elementary level, but in the secondary level we can teach. So like parallelly, vinegar comes in the acidic group and bleach comes in the basic groups. Lime juice is acidic group, baking soda comes in base group. So like that. So this type of classification is called parallel classification. And another one is the hierarchical classification. So in this hierarchical classification, we have already done in our school days that here the matter it comes in the chemistry. So the matter can be of two types, mixture and pure substances. And mixtures are further divided into homogeneous mixture and heterogeneous mixture. And this can be another like isotonic, hypotonic, that type of mixture also. Further classification can be given depending upon their classes. And pure substances can be further divided into elements and compounds. And these elements are further divided into metals and non-metals and metalloids. So like that, they can go on classifying. So this type of classification is known as the hierarchical classification. So here, after making them clear about this hierarchical way of classification, you can give this type of activities to them. Like ask your learner, many students, to classify the following materials as per the above shown scheme. This one, this table. And such as the mercury comes under which group? Swell, table salt, sugar, rainwater, coffee, carbon dioxide, copper, tap water, 20 karat gold, iron, glucose, vinegar, steel, vegetable soup, urea, fountain pen ink, blood, gravel, so like this. So this, if you ask them to do, they will develop the classification skill. And that classification also hierarchical classification. So this way, if we organize this type of activity, the learner will acquire the process skill of classification. So another skill is the measuring skill, measurement. And in our school days onwards, if we recollect our past activities of our school days, we must have make the use of various types of devices to measure certain object or certain activities by like to measure their length, volume, mass, temperature, or the time. And now also we are using it like to measure the temperature. We are using thermometer, and to measure the time, the watch or the clock or stopwatch. And nowadays the cell phone, smartphones are there. So we can encourage our learners to measure certain entities by using non-standard unit and sometimes mostly the standard units. Standard units means clear-cut this one devices like this, like scales, meter rods, balances. This is a graduated cylinder or the measuring cylinder, this one. And this is common balance. And this is thermometer. Thermometer can be two types. This is for atmospheric temperature, other one is clinical thermometer. And nowadays digital clinical thermometers are also available. And stopwatch also can be utilized to exactly record the time factor. And this is Gauss meter. This also we can utilize in performing some experiments. So we can ask our students to make the use of different types of standard scale instruments also, provided in the school. This type of arrangement is there. If it is not there also, at least they can make the use of scales, ruler, no? With that also they can enhance their measuring skills. And once they learn like to measure certain basic units by using different devices, as mentioned in this particular lesson, further they can be enhanced, they can be encouraged to do further enhancement of their measuring skills. So for that, these activities like converting the units from miles to kilometers, kilometers to meters, Fahrenheit scale to Celsius scale, inches to centimeters, pounds to kilogram, grams to milligram, liters to milliliters, hours to second, and minutes to hour, and so on. So this type of conversion of one unit into another unit. So this also we can teach them, or we can encourage them to enhance. And whenever our students are developing these measuring skills, so that time we have to keep in your mind that our students or the learners, they do that measuring activity very precisely and accurately. This is very important. And this precision, it comes under the psychomotor domain as one of the objective of teaching science, to develop the psychomotor skill, and one of them is that precision. First is imitations, then manipulation, and third one is the precision. So precision means to do the any act precisely, accurately, without the help of a teacher or the expert. And we can also encourage our students to develop their ability to carry out the calculation by using their instruments. So this type of activities we can organize in the class for developing the measurement skill. If not, if all the these devices are not available in the school, so that time at least this activity you can do. This is helpful even in the mathematics also. Like activity, ask your students to estimate the linear dimension of their classroom in centimeters, meters, or inches, and then tell them to measure it using meter rods or inch tape. Let the measurement be done by the learner in the group, and then ask them to compare their results. So they might not get uniform result in each group. So what could be the reason? You can initiate the discussion with the students to find out the reasons of varying results and the ways to ensure accuracy in measurement. So this type of activities you can organize in the class to develop the measurement skill. Then another basic skill is the estimation. So sometimes in certain activities we have to make the use of skill of estimations, and this skill of estimations sometimes it is required, and it is like there the exact measurement is not required. Sometimes we need half a glass of water, or a small piece of blotting paper, or a bunch of flowers, or pinch of salt, like that. So exactly there how many grams or how many pound it is there, or how many liter or milliliter it is there, exactly nobody can say, but at least the person will do that activity by using the skill of estimations. So in science sometimes we have to make the use of this type of skill also. And further let us move. Another skill, fifth one, is communicating. So this communicating skill is sending the information which we have gained during our scientific study, like by doing observations, measurement, or the classifying. So we want to send and receive that message by verbal and non-verbal means. Verbal means by vocally also we can share, and non-verbal means by other ways, not by speaking, but in other ways also we can communicate our information or our the activities, total work we can share with the others. So for that we have to make the use of the language, and that is known as the communication. And the language skill, speaking, especially the speaking or writing and drawing, and then gesturing, by showing gesture, by acting, by singing, by modeling, by storytelling, etc. We can communicate the scientific facts with the others. So this is interesting way of doing science. So communication in science is a specialized skill through which scientific knowledge is being shared and communicated among the scientific community. It is a specialized skill, sharing the scientific knowledge with the scientific community. So you can do this type of activity like this. How do they communicate, or how do you make them to understand about that communication part, and how the communication can be done? So one activity is here: ask the students to collect some descriptions about medicines given in a packets of cough syrups or antibiotics. And they can collect there, and in its a packet external sheet the details are being written, and which they generally go through when they purchase such medicines. Similarly, you can ask your students to collect some more user manuals of electric equipments or mobile phone. And every mobile phone has a user manual. Electric equipments also, suppose you have a rice cooker or a water kettle, electric water kettle. So there also, whenever it is being purchased, so that time user manual is there. So we can give this type of task to the students. They can collect the user manual, and they can also collect some of the reports of some people who have undergone this diagnosis process. So that type of record, that type of report, we can ask them to collect. Sometimes their own parents or their own relatives, such type of diagnostic report given from the laboratory or like ultrasound activities. So those things they can collect, and ask the learners to read all these things, which is the information given in the external packet of the cough syrup and or antibiotics, or the user manual of the phone or that of electrical appliances, and that of the diagnostic report of any individual. So then we can ask certain questions for their reflection. Are all written in the same manner? All written information written in the cover of the cough syrup bottle, and this user manual and the diagnostic report. So what type of communication they have done? Are they have been written in the same manner or not? They have to find out. And if say they say yes, it is similar, so what are the similarities? They have to find out in that report, and what are the differences, that also they can find out. So why a description of an antibiotic is not easily understandable to them, whereas they read and understand a user manual well. So in antibiotics, and the outer cover sheet, there the description is also given, but usually the people do not understand it, what is written in it also. So without understanding, people take out the tablet and have it, or capsule. But we can make our learners, students, to go this scientific act of seeing these things and find out the differences. And that means the expressions of different information varies from people to people, varies from one act, one event to another event. So that way the conclusion will be there regarding the communication. Then after that, the communication, scientific communication is to be emphasized by the teacher. So we have to explain, after doing these activities, the learners can be given the following explanation, like any scientific communication is to be systematic, step by step, not randomly. And the scientific language are different in different areas, just like in the paracetamol cover. There is a scientifically it is written, and that language does not match with the user manual of the cell phone. So different languages, scientific languages are different in different areas. And scientific communication varies keeping in mind of the reader. And all scientific communication has certain set norms, certain characteristic features, or certain norms are there. And some of the norms are given here. You can see all the scientific communication, it has to be complete and understandable language. It has to be done in understandable language. And all the processes which we have carried to collect this information, it is to be communicated step by step, not haphazardly. And scientific communications, we have to make the observations, and observations are to be recorded, and it has to be communicated, it has to be shared with the scientific population with accuracy. We have to be accurate. And scientific communication are more in scientific languages, and always avoid fancy and literary words. So scientific language should not be fancy, like in the poem, like a literary work. It should not be, there should not be any bombastic type of language. It has to be as simple as understandable. And scientific language, it is different. For example, like in our understanding, problem means some obstacle. But in science, a problem means an event of study, or an object which we are going to do the scientific study. So that will be that in that cases the word problem is utilized. So problem is defined, means that which activity, which event you are going to study. So that is to be clearly stated. So that type of language is being utilized in science. And scientific communication are not biased. It has to be very, very objective. So like all the scientific communications, it should be free from any kind of prejudices also. And once it is being done, then we can ask the students to share share their opinions or their observations verbally in the classroom, in the science classroom. They can verbally communicate in science classroom, and they can also share their opinion or their findings with the teacher also, or teacher can organize the group discussion, or teacher can organize the collective task, or individually the task can be given. So then the students like whole in the whole class the oral presentation also can be given. So this during your graduation you must have done the term paper presentations. So that is for enhancing the communication skill. So similar type of activities we can organize even in the school classroom. School, as a science teacher, we can organize. So this way the communication skill will be developed. And this communication skill here, it is about the oral presentation, and it can be done as a written communication also. Yeah, writing of the thesis, dissertation, these are the example of the written communication. And in the schools they cannot write a thesis, but at least they can write a synopsis, a short report of their activities, and they can present in the written form also, like project work, and orally also they can present. And this written form they can do with the creative writing. So creative writing here they can even you can make the charts, graphs, posters, maps, diagrams, symbols, equations, etc. These are the means of the communications. This will make our communication, scientific communication, very, very effective. So here in this module, every time I'm trying to incorporate many more pictorial forms, pictures, or sometimes drawing the diagrams, sometimes using the symbols, etc. So these are the strong means of communicating your ideas or your findings. So like this, later on in the integrated, by using the integrated skills also, the students can develop their creative writing. So here in this communication skill, even the creative thinking is also enhanced. So that way, and this is about the communication. I think it is clear to you. Now another skill is, sixth skill is the inferring, or drawing the inference. Once Soviet has asked this question in the class in the second semester also. So this inferring is using a logic to draw conclusion from what we observe, and an inference is an explanation of our observation about any object or event. So inference is you are coming to the reason of drawing the conclusion. When you observe certain phenomenon, certain activities or certain events for a prolonged durations, so after that time you come to the conclusions, and for that conclusion you have certain reasons for it. So that process is called inferring. In other words, an inference is a person's best guess about the cause of an observation. So it is generally based on some evidence also, and most of the time our inference is strongly conditioned by our past experiences and knowledge. Here I would like to give an example. Like my mother, she used to say that in any day, suppose if it becomes very hot and humid, so that time she used to say, oh, today it's hot and humid, there must be, I think there is going to be a very heavy shower, very strong rainfall after this. So that way, based on our experiences, I think she was predicting the weather of that particular time event, and in, and it used to come out true also when that day it is very hot and humid, and towards the end of the day or maybe by evening or afternoon, usually there used to be the heavy rainfall. So that was based on the past experiences. And but like this, we cannot say in the science learning. So here, the concrete procedure of inferring also is to be learned. So this inferring skill we can understand in a better way. Like this, as a science teacher, you first you can give some task to the students in differentiating between observation and inferences. So some example, let us see. Miss Jyotirmai, a science teacher in Loyal High School, Namchi, organized a garden work with the learner and asked them to prepare a report on their visit. So here, the students, they visited the garden and they prepare a report. And so here are the examples of the samples of the report. So one of the student, let us say the Bhumika, here, she said, she has written that today we are asked to walk in the garden and observe various plants. I saw various plants. Few were tall trees like pines and rhododendron, and few were shrubs like rose, and few were small herbs. So I also noticed that there were very few plants with fruits and flowers. Another report, let us say it is given by Helena. Okay, Helena, one student. And in Helena's report, when I walked today in garden, I noticed that most of the plants and trees were without flowers and fruits. This may be due to hot summers and sun is shining brightly and there was no rain for last 2-3 months. So grass in the garden has also turned brown. It's not as green as it looks in rainy days. So this is also another report. And next is, okay, this is Alkana. So this is Alkana's report, that today Jyotirmai ma'am asked us to visit the garden and prepare the report. We visited the garden in small groups. In my group, there were 3 students. We all divided the task on counting types of herbs, shrubs and trees. We found that in garden there are 4 types of herbs, 3 types of shrubs and 6 types of trees. So in all these 3 examples, what you can see that basically all these are the reporting acts about the facts. They found certain facts in the garden and that they are writing. They are communicating also by writing a report. And here in the second example, first 2 example is it's a totally a kind of a reporting that particular event only. And second example, in second report, there the learner has tried to use some logic. Last 2-3 months there is no rain, that's why the grasses are also has become brown, like that. So she is trying to put some reasoning to find out the facts. So here in this act, she is trying to draw the inference. So in this second reporting, the learner is trying to draw the inference based on the observation and the reasons. She is drawing the conclusions. So that is called drawing the inference. And As a science teacher, you can give a variety of tasks to learners where they can practice skill of inferring. And it is necessary to help learners in making better inferences by guiding their thinking and help them to learn how to make logical conclusions about an observations. So here one example you can see that how do you infer that age of a tree, like by counting the tree rings in the cross-sectional pieces of the tree trunk, the how many rings are there, by counting it, the how old that tree is, the people can make it out like this counting. So this type of activity can be we can consider as the inferences. So inference. Okay, and now the inferences mostly we do like this. And last skill is this predicting. So predicting is to forecast about what a future observation will be. Like my shared experience is my mother, that was also kind of a prediction, and she was drawing the inferences also there also. So prediction is the forecast about what a future observation will be, and predictions are based on our the previous skills, that is the observation, measurement, inferences. When we use these skills as a result of these things, by studying the relationship, all the findings of the collected information, then there are the chances of making the use of that predicting skill. So predicting skills are also known as their best guesses, possible guesses, based on that available data in hand. So when you observe dark clouds in the sky, what do you say about the weather? You forecast. If you have to go out, you may have to take an umbrella. Why? Because you have predicted the weather. No, we just see the sky and I have to carry umbrella. So like that, we change our behavior. At that time, we are making the use of the skill prediction. So to define the prediction, it is the skill which helps us to know the behavior of any particular object or phenomenon before it happens. So all our planning depends upon our predictions. So predictions about the eclipse, prediction about the crop productions, prediction about the weather, prediction about the behavior of the substances of the human being are the examples of the predictions. And these predictions, you can give this type of task to your students. This is the in part. And for example, some of the activities, like you can ask your students to predict, like whether some object will sink or float, whether some object, whether piece of iron or the nail, it will sink or float, and whether some object will be attracted or repelled by the magnet. Suppose a piece of stone is attracted or repelled by the magnet. So that time they can predict whether the bulb will glow or not in a specific circuit. So these examples are taken from physics, and whether the seed get germinated in a specific condition or not, and so on. That example is taken from the biology. So in this type of situation you can create in the classroom, and that time this will enhance the prediction skill among the learners. And some more activities, like we can organize in the classroom to develop the predictive thinking skill of the learners. Like, what would happen if you place the potted plant horizontally on surface and let it grow for a few days? Students, they will pause for a while, and that time they will try to come to the one answer, and that answer actually it is a possible guess. that may be a prediction. What would happen if you put few drops of soap solution in a piece of cloth stained with turmeric? There, that time also students will predict. What would happen if blue vitriol is stored in an iron vessel? Yes, chemistry. What would happen if you place an onion peel in a hypotonic solution for half an hour? This is from biology. So this type of uh, activities, this type of questions, if you place among the learners, so this will enhance, this will nurture the prediction skill of the learners. So lastly, you can design an activity developing following scientific process skill among your learners: measuring, observing, measuring, predicting, and after using this observing, measuring, and predicting, implement that particular activity and then prepare a report on effectiveness of activities for developing these skills. So you can, in a total, you can organize one activity where the students can observe also, they can measure also, they can predict also, and ask them to prepare a report also, so that even the communication skill also will be enhanced. So this way the science can be taught among the students to develop the different process skills. With this, we wind up today's class and see you next time. Thank you.